As his courtroom defeats continue to pile up regarding his potentially illegal and unconstitutional abuses of executive power, Donald Trump had another high-profile public meltdown on Truth Social, lashing out at various judges, even as his administration continues to defy them, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, it's a day that ends in Y, which means Donald Trump had a public meltdown after yet another legal defeat. This is from Truth Social yesterday at 6:30 p.m. Unlawful nationwide injunctions by radical left judges could very well lead to the destruction of our country. These people are lunatics who do not care, not even a little bit, about the repercussions from their very dangerous and incorrect decisions and rulings. Lawyers endlessly search the United States for these judges and file lawsuits as quickly as they find them. It is then the obligation of law-abiding agencies of the government to have these orders overturned. The danger is unparalleled. These judges want to assume the powers of the presidency without having to attain 80 million votes. They want all of the advantages with none of the risks. Again, a president has to be allowed to act quickly and decisively about such matters as returning murderers, drug lords, rapists, and other such type of criminals back to their homeland or to other locations that will allow our country to be safe. It is our goal to make America great again, and such an aspiration can never be done if radical and highly partisan judges are allowed to stand in the way of justice. Stop nationwide injunctions now before it's too late. If Justice Roberts and the United States Supreme Court do not fix this toxic and unprecedented situation immediately, our country is in very serious trouble. He's not happy. He's lashing out. Now, we'll dive into some of the particulars here, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Republicans, including Trump, are profound hypocrites whom you are not obligated to take seriously when it comes to the topic of nationwide injunctions. When President Biden was in office, Republicans were eager, they were horny to go out and seek nationwide injunctions after judge shopping for sympathetic judges. For example, District Court Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk from Amarillo, Texas, who was appointed by Donald Trump, who was nationwide injunction happy. He loved it, especially when it came, for example, to mifepristone, right, and trying to restrict women's health care and reproductive rights. He slapped the FDA with a nationwide injunction trying to prevent the sale and distribution of mifepristone, okay? And not a peep from Donald Trump and Trump-aligned Republicans about it. They celebrated the decision. But when the shoe's on the other foot, they freak out. So again, you're not obligated to take them seriously. So what's Trump talking about? Well, in just the past 2 weeks, according to Mediaite, U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell ruled against Trump in a case about stripping security clearances. Judge William Alsup ordered Trump to reinstate fired probationary federal employees, and Trump called for Boasberg's impeachment. That's the judge who told Trump to turn the plane around of migrants that Trump was shipping and sending back to El Salvador. Called for Boasberg's impeachment after he temporarily ordered the Trump administration to stop deporting migrants under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Those orders are among nearly 50 adverse rulings against Trump's agenda so far, including at least 15 injunctions. So, he also said in a separate Truth Social post, Judge James Boasberg is doing everything in his power to usurp the power of the presidency. He is a local, unknown judge, a grandstander looking for publicity, and it cannot be for any other reason because his rulings are so ridiculous and inept. Save America. And as Mediaite notes, Boasberg was actually appointed to the Superior Court of D.C. by a Republican president in 2002, George W. Bush, and then promoted again by President Obama. So, we're going to get into the particulars of Trump's beef with Boasberg. The other thing I'll say is, again, because we're consistent here at Pondering Politics, I have no issue with anybody questioning the outer perimeter or the excesses, potential excesses and abuses of judicial review. If you follow this channel, you know that I have been complaining that the judiciary is a branch that needs to be susceptible to checks and balances, not merely dispensing them, particularly the Supreme Court. You see, district judges, appellate judges, basically every federal judge in the country under the Supreme Court, they are subject to fact-finding operations, to ethics requirements, to binding ethics laws, but the Supreme Court is not. So we have Justice Clarence Thomas, conservative justice of the Supreme Court, not disclosing millions of dollars in undisclosed gifts from right-wing billionaires. That's corrupt. That's unethical. Had it been any other judge, had it been a district judge, there would have been potentially removal already or some sort of, actual backlash, legal challenge and backlash to a particular judge. But because he's on the Supreme Court, there's really no body that can enforce any sort of ethics law against the Supreme Court. I do believe that judges in this country, be they liberal or conservative, be they appointed by Republican or Democrat, be they a district court judge or a United States Supreme Court justice, they should be reined in the sense that there should be a binding code of conduct which is enforceable, which could lead to fines or arrest, depending on what it is. They should be subject to investigation and audit. We should hold these people to the highest possible standard because, unlike presidents and unlike senators and congresspeople, they're not elected. They serve for life. It's one of the reasons I also supported President Biden's proposal to add justices to the court, to expand the court, to make it more regular for basically every president to get 2 Supreme Court appointees. It would still have to get Senate confirmed. So if they picked a terrible appointee, it could theoretically be blocked by the Senate in exchange for a better one. And I believe in term limits as well. But I also believe in just the general notion of making sure that judges operate at the highest level of integrity and face very strict and severe consequences if they don't. But that's not what Trump is talking about. Trump says he loves judicial review as long as it's being applied to Democrats and not to him. And that's not something that we should accept. So, regarding the specific beef with Boasberg, judge to consider block on Trump's use of wartime law to deport Venezuelans. A hearing on Friday afternoon could also include some discussion about the Justice Department's repeated recalcitrance in responding to the judge's demands. Okay, so at the time of recording, this is going to start in 3 minutes, okay? A hearing has been set for Friday afternoon to debate whether a federal judge in Washington acted correctly when he temporarily stopped the Trump administration last weekend from summarily deporting scores of Venezuelan immigrants under a powerful but rarely invoked wartime statute. The hearing could also include some discussion about the Justice Department's repeated recalcitrance in responding to the judge's demands. He has been requesting information about 2 deportation flights in particular, which officials say carry members of a Venezuelan street gang. The judge, James Boasberg, scolded the department in a stern order on Thursday for having evaded its obligations to provide him with data about the flights. He wants that information as he seeks to determine whether the Trump administration violated his initial instructions to turn the planes around after they left the United States on Saturday evening. Most of the courtroom conversation, however, is likely to concern Boasberg's underlying decision to stop the White House from now using the wartime law known as the Alien Enemies Act to pursue its immigration agenda. The statute, passed in 1798, gives government expansive powers during an invasion or declared war to round up and summarily remove any subjects of a hostile nation over the age of 14 as alien enemies. So, that's the substance of what the latest beef is with Judge Boasberg. But what's also interesting, too, is this idea that Boasberg is a radical left lunatic. He's actually not at all. He's actually ruled repeatedly in Trump's favor and to the Republicans' benefit in the past, thanks to really good reporting from Zateo, which is the outfit led by friend of the show, Mehdi Hassan. So they have an article about this. On Tuesday, Trump ramped up attacks on Boasberg on his Truth Social platform, calling him a radical left lunatic of a judge who's crooked and a troublemaker and agitator. He went on to call for Boasberg to be impeached, a sentiment shared by Shadow President Elon Musk, who said on Twitter that articles of impeachment against Boasberg are necessary. But here's the thing. There's nothing left-wing about Boasberg. He's a former homicide prosecutor who was appointed to head the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court by Chief Justice John Roberts. Does that sound like a flaming liberal to you? Yes, as the Trump people keep pointing out, he was nominated by President Obama into the district court in 2011, but what they omit to mention is that the Senate voted unanimously 96-0 to confirm him, and he'd already been appointed as an associate judge 9 years earlier by noted far-left President George W. Bush. And here's what the Trump people don't want you to know. On multiple occasions over the years, Judge Boasberg, the supposed radical left lunatic, has issued rulings that are very favorable to Trump and MAGA and very unfavorable to Democrats. Here are just 5 of them. Number 1, going soft on insurrectionists. Before Trump pardoned over 1,500 rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, Boasberg oversaw dozens of cases associated with the insurrection, and, as the Associated Press has noted, the judge often issued sentences, quote, significantly more lenient than what prosecutors recommended. He sentenced former Trump supporter Ray Epps to 1 year of probation instead of the 6 months in prison requested by prosecutors. In another case, Boasberg reduced the prison sentence of a rioter who called him a clown by 1 year. Quote, I'm happy to let you say whatever you wish, but again, I haven't interrupted you, Boasberg told the member of the Proud Boys extremist group. Quote, I've treated you with courtesy in all these proceedings. Number 2, releasing Hillary Clinton's emails. In August 2016, less than 3 months before the presidential election, Boasberg ordered the expedited release of thousands of emails the FBI found during its investigation into then Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton's private email server. His ruling was in response to a lawsuit brought by the pro-Trump conservative group Judicial Watch, which is led by Tom Fitton. There is no but her emails without Judge Boasberg. Number 3, protecting Trump's tax records. In 2017, Boasberg dismissed a lawsuit filed by the Electronic Privacy Information Center, EPIC, which sought to access Trump's tax records from the IRS from 2010 onwards. In his decision, Boasberg wrote, quote, "What EPIC wants in this case is to peer into another person's income tax records. Although the court has no reason to doubt EPIC's assertion that the return information on this particular individual, Donald Trump, would be of interest to the public, the fact does not give the organization a viable legal case." Almost exactly a decade after Trump launched his first presidential campaign, the American public continues to be in the dark about Donald Trump's tax returns. Thanks, Judge Boasberg. Punishing FBI agents. In 2020, as the chief judge of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, Boasberg banned FBI agents involved in the wiretapping of former Trump aide Carter Page from seeking wiretaps in other cases after the Justice Department found that 2 of the 4 FISA warrants to surveil Page were invalid. Page served as a foreign policy advisor for Trump during his 2016 presidential campaign and was a focus of the Mueller investigation. And finally, number 5, undermining special counsel Jack Smith. The Trump people may be mad at Boasberg for issuing a sealed opinion in 2023, forcing Mike Pence to testify before the grand jury investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election after the former vice president challenged the subpoena to cooperate with special counsel Jack Smith's team. But what they conveniently don't mention or focus on is that Boasberg's ruling also protected Pence from answering a number of questions about what exactly happened on January 6th, thereby undermining the special counsel's investigation. Boasberg is not biased against Trump. He's not a left-wing or an Obama judge. On Tuesday, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, an ardent conservative and George W. Bush appointee, took the extraordinary step of publicly rebuking Trump for calling for the judge's impeachment. And guess what? MAGA has turned on Roberts, too. So there you have it, folks. Number 1, Boasberg is not a radical left-wing judge. Anyone who says otherwise is either stupid or a liar or ignorant, or perhaps some combination thereof. And number 2, Donald Trump is once again publicly lashing out simply because he is losing court cases on the merits. And number 3, of course, you are not obligated to take any of their criticisms of the judiciary seriously at all because they're hypocrites and unprincipled. They have no problem with judicial review or district judges crushing presidents or ruling against presidents as long as that president is a Democrat, which means you can just throw their opinions in the trash where it belongs. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.